All right, what is going on, everyone? I just want to introduce myself. My name is Eric Velasquez, and I am interviewing all the candidates for the upcoming city elections. And today we have our guest here, and I'm going to go ahead and bring her on. Hey, Denise.
Hi, Eric. How you doing?
Good, good. So go ahead and let's just start from now. Let's go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Denise Gutierrez-Homer, and I am thrilled to be here with you today. I'm running for the 2021 race for Mayor San Antonio. I'm very excited to put my purse in the ring.
Right, there you go. So with that, what was that jump like for you? Like what motivates you to just be like, you know what, I'm gonna do it? Because it running for office is not an easy thing to do, and even just thinking about it is just hurts people's heads, right? So, what made you say, you know what, I'm gonna do it?
Well, people who know me and my family and my friends know to know that there's a lot of unexpected possibilities with me. I go from one thing to another. I've had different jobs in my career. I'm very active in my community, and you'll see me out there cleaning up or helping people fix their plumbing right now with what we're dealing with San Antonio. But the fact is that right now, this was a time for me to do it. I wasn't going to be one of those who constantly complained. Went to city council, spoke in front of city council, trying to get my opinion, my view, my solutions across to our city council elected officials and not be heard. I need to be heard. I want my neighbors to be heard. And we're suffering right now. We're dealing with a lot of issues. And I know we're going to have a lot of questions. So we need to have somebody in city council that will listen and come up with the right solutions. So I thought, might as well do it. It needs to be done. Not thinking we were going to have a catastrophe that we had last week, but it's more important than ever right now to have a voice, but have a person that will listen and get the solutions and the results that we need right now for San Antonio.
Right, and let's just touch on that. I'm just gonna say touch because I don't want to go because that was a whole mess, right? And everybody's upset, but you know, as a mayor, being an ex officio on the board for CPS, what are some things that you would like to see done? Um, while in office, because you would be part of the board itself. What would you like to see done?
Well, actually, one of the things that we have to understand that we have a lot of opportunities for our representation in city council, including the mayor's position, to be involved in a lot of new and futuristic possibilities for our city. We actually have concerns about green energy, the health of our city. And right now, with this catastrophe, that became the spotlight. The fact that we had a mayor that ran and was in a place of position as a city council person, now is heading our city as a mayor for 2 years or two terms. And we should have had the insight, the knowledge, the the opportunity to have his position reach out to other people that deal with a lot of situations regarding our heat, our cold, our water, our electricity, anything that we're dealing with right now. There's no excuses right now for him. I'm sorry to say this, there's no excuses. He should have been able to pick up that phone and say, I need to have a meeting with you right now. Right now. And somebody needs to pick up that phone and tell us exactly what we need to do. Because the fact is, he is in charge. He might be on the board, but he's still in charge. We're stockholders as citizens of San Antonio with CPS and water. That is our stock in our city. And our board of directors dropped the ball. Dropped the ball. Any other company, they would be out. No ifs, and or buts. They dropped the ball.
Yeah, definitely. And Chris says, lock up ERCOT and Ted Cruz.
Well, there are a lot
I
of
mean,
players here, okay? But I'm talking
yeah,
about what happened here in San Antonio. We had
right.
opportunities to fix this. We closed the Dilly plant. I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but the fact that we have people in our city council, our city officials, that love the limelight, that love the publicity around being in a position of power as a mayor or a city council person. And when you have Bloomberg coming into San Antonio in 2017, the billionaire that he was and is in our national spotlight, come to San Antonio and hobnob with all city council and say, you know what? I need to make a deal with you. You're going to get an award. You follow us, you follow the Green Accord or the Paris Accord and the Green New Deal, all these fancy words, it's the same thing. They wanted to be on that special team with all the celebrities that left to do the Green New Deal. And I'm not saying it's not important, but the fact that we actually had a plant, the Dilly plant, that was shuttered, it was closed, and that coal plant could have conversions. There's always an opportunity to reuse, recycle what we already invested in, because we as citizens invested in the Dilly plant. And we just shut it down completely. That would have helped a lot of people right now if we would have invested in a conversion, because we as citizens pay enough money and utilities to put some money aside to get that conversion done with that plant.
Now, with some of the opposition of people saying that we need to shut down these coal plants, I mean, what do you say to that?
Well, I understand the reasoning behind that. We have the Sierra Club. We have a lot of green groups and organizations that like to argue the fact that we have climate warming. Well, we know last week that did not apply to San Antonio. We had a deep, deep freeze. The fact that we're actually dealing with something that we needed to make sure that we had a strategic plan for our citizens to make sure we had backups. We didn't have backups. Everybody has a backup. We're in Texas. We know we have backups along the coastal areas of Texas when we have evacuations for hurricanes. Why didn't we have a backup? I've been meeting with people. I've been meeting with doctors and with clinics. The fact that we actually have people right now that are suffering the consequences of 1 week of not getting medical services, 1 week of not having water for their dialysis machines or their treatments for cancer. The fact that we had people having to be relocated to another medical facility because they didn't have backup in their own hospital, because somebody forgot to have a backup at Saul's to turn on a switch and turn on the water. Those are the failures. Those are the failures. You don't leave a city incapable of keeping the water on or the lights on. And I've been reaching out to a lot of different organizations and city governments outside of Texas to find out how they deal with the cold weather. I'm not going to share that all today because we do have a debate tonight.
Yeah. I'll be there. I'll be there.
Thank you. But the fact is, I'm doing my research because I am a businesswoman. You have to have a backup plan. And San Antonio failed. San Antonio Council and the mayor failed. CPS and SAWS failed, each and every one of you. But I have solutions.
Now, so are you for green energy though, or do you think that we should rely upon what we've been on, right now?
It's a team. Everybody's on a team. We cannot go cold turkey on anything. Yes, green energy is good, but sometimes wind and sometimes the sun is not going to be your option. And we saw that. I have a neighbor that just invested on a huge parking lot of covered awnings that are solar panels. I took pictures of it. It was frozen over the entire week. He just made that huge investment. And where did that energy go? We have no storage capability in San Antonio. We want to have wind energy. Where's the storage capacity? We want to have solar. Where's the storage capacity?
Now, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Aren't there a lot of restrictions that CPS puts for people putting batteries and things like that for the solar panels?
Yeah, because you're cutting into their profits. You're
So
cutting into.
what would you like to see done with that?
We
If
need
you
to see
can.
the regulation. The regulation. We need to look it over. We really do, because we can't turn green energy as the enemy, and we can't turn fossil fuel energy as the enemy. Because right now, natural gas in San Antonio saved me in my home because I have natural gas to at least heat my kitchen and keep me warm when we had outages and cook my food. A lot of areas in downtown San Antonio and the inner city rely on natural gas. And the fact that we actually had people that kept warm that way and fed their family that way, that saved a lot of people. But north of the city, where you have all of these new green energy, green living houses and developments, they were literally in the dark. We need to have other options for everybody. We need to let the opportunities for developers to decide, you know what, if our client wants to have a gas stove, let them have a gas stove. They want to have a gas fireplace, let them have a gas fireplace. Let's stop with having all these restrictions because that's my home. That's the safety of my family. I want to have other options. But the fact that we don't have options because we want to have all these restrictions because we want to make everything so green, well, guess what, Eric? A lot of people who invested in an electric vehicle sat in their home, in their garage. They couldn't even open up their electric garage to get out to find a place to charge it because they couldn't even charge it at home. And that's part of the green initiatives that we have with the mayor and the city council that made this plan with Bloomberg. By 2020, they wanted us to have at least half of our vehicles in the city of San Antonio fleet be electric. Can you imagine that if we didn't have the situation that we were dealing with COVID-19, we would have pushed that agenda so far that we would have had a lot of our emergency vehicles in our city fleets be electric, sitting in a parking lot, because the lifespan of an electric vehicle battery during a freeze is diminished by 50%. Do you know? I mean, I've been researching
No,
all that.
I
It diminishes the battery life. Instead of going 200 miles, you're down to 100 miles. And the corrosion of your batteries and the lifespan, you'll have to replace it very soon because you dealt with a deep freeze. That's why there are different types of vehicles sold in the northern part of the United States versus the southern part of the United States. But right now, a lot of our people and our neighbors that invested in electric vehicles, as soon as we had some warm weather, they were out there trying to figure out where to charge their batteries. And we still have plenty of outages. So imagine the fact that we can put ourselves in danger if we don't have fossil fuel vehicles in our city fleets.
right. Well, and
Diesel
two,
city fleets.
I think also trying to move in that direction though, so we could build that infrastructure, I think would help.
Oh,
Obviously, yes, our infrastructure right now sucks, right? So, I mean, yes, we can't do all those things. And Eric says Tesla roofs melt snow faster than traditional melt. So, I mean, I mean, we have Elon Musk in Austin now. So, my thing was is like, well, why not use, you know, Tesla, or Elon Musk to kind of help with our energy shortages or whatever it is, because and maybe people might not. I don't know. I'm just saying we have to also think out of the box and also try to collaborate with other people that really know what they're doing, especially with electric.
well, a
Uh,
collaboration is wonderful. And I'm not saying I oppose electric, but we can't just cut
right.
all of our possibilities away because literally we're living in a world of fear. It's a big, I want to use the word cucuy. If you know the word in Spanish, I mean el cucuy. And the fear of that, oh, energy and we're going to have all of these emissions and we're going to have all of these bad air quality situations in our environment. I'm sorry, the worst air quality I have is during allergy season. Cedar, mold, ragweed. I spend most of my time on allergy medicine because of the environment, not
Mhm.
because of a coal plant. So the fact is, we have to look at both things and understand that we can turn something, like I said, the coal plant in Dilley, and convert it into another way of still getting energy. And there's different ideas out there that a lot of the plants on the northern part of the country have made conversions. And we can do that reasonably. So if we have all of this money right now in CPS and in SALS, yes, let's lose some of that money and put it into another way of making sure we have security in a storage capacity of other options to keep our lights on and keep our water on. If it's for green energy, let's make sure we have enough storage. If it's for fossil fuel, we have fracking not too far from here. Natural gas can do wonders for us at a plant. That's in abundance. But we need to understand that we have to look at everything and not just say focus on one item, because this is what happened to us. We needed electricity and we didn't have it.
Definitely. Valerie says the northern parts share energy from with other states. Uh, we were failed at the state level due to greed from current and former elected officials.
I would have to disagree. Not the entire state was off the grid because they have other options. When we focus to put everything in one basket, everything collapses. Everything collapses. So we actually could have been insulated from some of the really drastic situations that we had last week if we would have kept some of our own energy here in San Antonio. And that's one of the things that's going to happen. A lot of these individuals on ERCOT are not even Texans. Think about
Yeah,
that.
they're
I mean,
not.
we're
One's
blaming,
from Canada, I think.
yeah, I mean, we're blaming Texas, and we have somebody from Germany, somebody from Canada. I mean, we have other individuals that are part of that board. So we need to know what failures we had. Are we dealing with the politics? Are we dealing with the economics? So the fact is, there's a lot of blame here, and we need to find out where it is.
Well, and the thing
Learn
too
about
is,
my city.
yeah, definitely, and the thing too that really struck me as odd was that they have immunity, the lawsuits, and that was just ridiculous. You know, um, trying to find things go around it. Trying to about holding them accountable. Um, Eric says, so what is your plan to change the voters of San Antonio to stop voting for mass transit and focus more on auxiliary plans of power and water?
Well, we definitely need to look at VIA. VIA is necessary, but VIA is also antiquated. We're talking about green. We can do something a little bit different now with green. The fact that we actually can be more specific with the needs of our transportation, we actually have Uber and Lyft. We have people that invest in their own transportation because they are now self entrepreneurs. We can work with them. We can get the passenger from point A to point B right to the door. The information I'm getting from people that actually use the bus whenever they need to, because they really don't want to, is the fact that the trip takes too long. The trip actually still has them walking to the bus station in terrible weather, or still having to carry their groceries from point A to point B because they get out of the grocery store, get to the bus station, and still have to walk blocks before they get to their home. Imagine if we actually had something where we can have an opportunity for a lot of these individuals with their own cars that are electric that go to work. If they still end up going to work at a private building and saying, okay, we're going to do driverless now. So if those driverless cars are actually out there, that person can go to work, park the car, put all the information in, cars available, go pick up my riders. That's less expensive, more efficient than having all of these buses using up our streets, beating up our streets, ruining our streets, then we have to pay for to fix. So part of our infrastructure that we're supporting is via bus, which is very important for a lot of people. But the fact that we have to use our own infrastructure funding to fix the streets that they use makes no sense. They need to be a player in this game as well. If Via
Well,
Bus wants to use our streets, they need to go ahead and pony up and help us maintain those streets.
now I know we have Via Link as well.
Yeah.
And Via Link, for anybody who doesn't know, that's basically kind of like an Uber situation. They use a van to go pick you up, and they have an app and everything. From one of the candidates that I spoke to, District 10, he said that they are going to move because right now it's in D10 area right now,
Yeah.
and they're going to move it over to UTSA as well. Um, and one of the things I asked was like, why are these not being utilized in more neighborhoods that might need them a little bit more, that are maybe lower income and things like that. So, um, would you like to see that sped up, or would you like to see a change in the Via Link?
Well, the shuttle is exactly what we're talking about here because we actually have it with the county. Our county actually facilitates a lot of those services for our elderly and our handicap and those needing services inside our city. They shuttle the outside residents of San Antonio city limits and shuttle them into San Antonio to go to the medical center.
Well,
Those
that's via trans. I'm talking
are,
about
yeah,
via link.
yeah, but via link is something similar to that because you're talking about going down to shuttles
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
the needs are necessary everywhere. I know in the inner city, we have people that need to go to the medical services, need to be dropped off to their different clinics, and bus routes don't do that.
Yeah.
They need shuttles because either they're handicapped, they have medical devices, they need that direct link to that place of need, which is dealing with doctors or going to a certain appointment with their families. A lot of families don't want to take the bus. When you're carting kids around, that's too many arms that you have to have around you to make sure your children are safe, let alone go to the store with them or go to a doctor's appointment with your kids. People don't take the bus for that. So I definitely understand that we need to look at the via bus situation because we're not being specific to the needs of the individuals. And right now we can see that for this past year during COVID-19, via failed a lot of people. You need to have private transportation if you want to go to the food bank. You need private transportation if you need to go around town to look for your medical supplies. You can't take a bus. You can't line up at the food bank distribution center on a via bus. You need to find a family friend or a neighbor to take you. So there's some hardships that come with having via because via can't provide all your needs.
Right. Now let's talk about that. The I said, what's the cost on this? As far as are you talking about via? Like, what's the cost for via link? If you could kind of explain it. Oh, also, real quick, if any of y'all would like to come in and ask the candidate a question specifically, please do. Let me share the link down in the comments, and you can come in and you can specifically ask. Just that way, I'm not saying something or saying something the wrong way that you're trying to ask the question. Same thing for YouTube, and so we're also live on YouTube as well. Um, so Linda, if you want to ask the question, please jump in. Use the link that's on there below in the comments. You can come in. Um, Valerie said the city should transport people to the food bank. There should be a number one could call for that exact need. Now, before we ask this question, I do love what the food bank is doing, but the problem is that we've seen a lot of food being wasted. Is there something that you would like to see different from what the food bank is doing?
Okay, this is going to be a little bit long, but I've been studying this and this is something that people don't understand in San Antonio. The fact that we have an interrelationship with city and county in so many areas, from mental health to our food shortages to our policing, because we have to work together. So our budget sometimes covers what our county is supposed to be paying for because we pay for it in our taxes for county taxes. Now, when we're talking about the food bank, I noticed that during COVID-19, we have our city school districts providing food services to our students who are staying home. They come into my neighborhood. They're on a daily route. And then on Friday, they actually provide more food to the students for the weekend. So think about this, San Antonio. The fact that we actually have our taxes that we pay for our school district being a concierge service. Let's make it fancy. It's a concierge service when you're talking about a school bus coming to your neighborhood, opening up the rear door, and handing out the food to their students. Why aren't we using our school districts to facilitate the additional needs for Meals on Wheels for our seniors, for other families in the neighborhood that might not have children in that specific school district because they're choosing to go to idea schools or promise schools? They still pay taxes.
Because they're
They
buses. They're buses, though.
buses.
They're
They're
buses. They're tearing up our streets.
Yeah,
So, what can we do with that?
we're paying for those buses.
Right.
So if we put some of the money into making sure that the school districts are providing the food for the individuals along that route, specific route, you're hitting the students, you're still hitting the people in need, you're hitting the seniors who have missed out on major, major meals throughout this COVID-19 and out today because we don't have enough people helping deliver the meals to our seniors. But we have to work together because we're paying for it.
But let me
But
stop
the
you there.
county, but let me finish, Eric.
Okay.
Do you know that the county supervise every school district in San Antonio? They're the boss. County Judge Wolf can consolidate our school districts. He's the main superintendent for all of our schools when you look at the whole picture. And people don't understand how school districts work. I used to be a teacher. That's the politics that we're dealing with right now with city, county, and our districts, our school districts. So a lot of our funding gets intermingled and we're still losing out. That's what a business person looks at. Where does all of our money go? And what are we getting as a return? So when you have somebody asking about the food bank right now, that you need to be having some sort of transportation to the food bank, that's going to be impossible. Because you can't get them with their huge boxes over to each house.
Right.
You can't. It's impossible.
Yeah. Now,
And
now,
the distribution has changed in the food bank in San Antonio. You have food bank distributions on the north side because they're in need as well.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. I'm
No,
very
you're good.
see it, and I'm
Yeah.
thinking we're paying for this, and we're not getting the full service of what we can get for our taxes.
And I want to go back to what you were saying about the school buses doing the more routes, but you had just said that Via is tearing up our streets. I mean, what's the difference between Via and the school buses? You know what I mean? The mode of transportation is still tearing up our streets, so we will still have to pay for that as well. I mean,
VS paid by us through our local taxes. School districts go to the state, and the state reimburses our city for our taxes. Now, the other thing that we're doing with our taxes for our school districts, we're paying for bonds. We just passed a bond here in my school district of San Antonio ISD, the largest bond ever at $1.3 billion. Think about that. $1.3 billion for a school district with less than 40,000 students. We pay more in San Antonio ISD in school taxes than Alamo Heights. Did you know that?
yeah.
So when you look at everybody's taxes around the city of San Antonio, North Side, Northeast, ISD, Edgewood, Harlandale, look at your taxes. San Antonio ISD pays the highest amount in all of San Antonio.
Yeah, and there's something that has to be done with that because these property taxes are outrageous, and nobody seems to have any accountability with
No,
having to stop this stuff. And yes, are there ways for people to protest their taxes? Yes. Have
yeah.
we, I personally have put on classes to show people how to do it, but you know, why do we have to do that every single year? You know what I mean? And it's just going up and up and up, and it's kicking people out of their homes. Um,
They're kicking people out of their affordable homes.
and-
Existing homes is affordable housing, Eric. Think about that. It's not going out and building a brand new one. If you already live in your home, that's your affordable home. But it's the city who's making it unaffordable for you to stay in your home.
yeah. Valerie says, right, electric cars aren't wise for people because we lost power and couldn't charge them. But you want to replace Via with electric cars people can borrow?
No, you're not going to borrow anything. You pay for it. You pay for it. But remember, electric cars, there are systems now that you actually can have electric and renewable energy in there. So you don't have to charge all the cars. There's so much development happening right now. And that's what's really interesting. We don't know all the information because we're just given a slight little tidbit of what the developments are for transportation. So we need to get that information to us because they're not going to share it. What I'm sharing today regarding what we're talking about with the food disparity is something that nobody really thought about. We see the school buses, and of course we see VIA buses, but the fact that school buses serve the students, and we know we have students but we don't know we have VIA riders because right now they're all blacked out. And unless you're driving at night and you can see the light shining through the bus, you see that you're down 1, 2 passengers. So are we really getting a useful passenger transportation program to our city if we're down in ridership? And we have that information. Ridership is down with VIA. So why are we having these huge buses? We can go to shuttles.
And I think one of the arguments was that they're trying to cut down time. Is why ridership is down because it takes so long. How you're saying it takes so long to get to a place, but I think if maybe you were to cut down certain time that people have to wait, maybe that would help. But again, like you said, is the large buses having that via link to maybe even connect you right to your destination would be better for us. Um, I mean that would be a lot better. But I don't know. Can you just explain what you meant though about us paying for the electric cars?
That's actually what the city wanted to do with the fleet. You're talking about the city fleets or our private vehicles?
Well, what when she asked about do you want to place via with electric cars people can borrow? I know you said not borrow, but what do you mean that we would buy
No,
it?
if we have our own personal vehicle, and it happens to be electric or a Leaf or just one of those new hybrid vehicles, and they're driverless, we're getting close to that. I mean, realistically, we're getting closer to having driverless cars. Then that vehicle makes you money because you own that vehicle. And that vehicle becomes your Lyft business or your driver.
Oh,
I mean, it
okay.
becomes an Uber business for you. So while you're sitting at home taking care of your kids, Eric, like you're doing right now, your car could be out there taking up fares
Oh, I got. I,
because
I
it's all driverless. And they're
yeah.
doing that in other areas of the country right now. They're trying to see if this can work. Now, we're not saying it could possibly be something that we could do, but the fact is that we still need to have options. We can't have all electric. I know because I see it over in Alamo College. We have all of these charging stations. I have yet to see anybody charging their car at Alamo College and their new offices. So we spent all of this money, and part of the program that they want to have in city council is change the development code where you're going to have possible charging stations in your new development, either your business or in your own home. So if you build a brand new home or your builder's building a brand new subdivision, they might be required to make that extra expense to have a charging station in your garage.
If
Think
you
about
want it, or
straight out.
okay, but I thought you said earlier that you wanted to people to have the choice.
It's their choice. The choice is your choice. But when
Yeah.
you're buying a brand new home
Mhm.
and your builder's told that that's part of the building requirements to have a charging station, why do I want to pay for a charging station if I'm not going to have an electric car?
Right.
That's my choice.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
That's
I
what we're
just want to
talking
make sure. I just want to make sure you were saying that they have
about.
to.
But this is what the city wants to do. Anybody that builds a new subdivision, new development, new commercial needs to have a certain amount of spaces for charging pods and personal charging stations in their homes that they're building brand new. So think about the extra expenses to these properties. People can't even afford an electric car. I know that I have a lot of people in my neighborhood that pass down their family vehicle to their kid to go to school or to go to work. I have an old car. I mean, it still works. I maintain it. Why do I have to go buy a car every 2 years? Some people have a car for 10, 15 years
Right.
if you
Well,
maintain.
yeah, and that's something that we I think figuring out how to properly buy a vehicle too, like cost wise, you know, I think
And
we need
Valerie,
to teach
uh,
people that.
and I would like to respond to Valerie because I
Oh yeah.
am reading and I am listening to the conversation. But Valerie, no, I have been very blessed not to use public transportation. Depending on it, I have used it to go to events here in my area, but I have used it as a child, but as an adult, I haven't. I did not like the experience as a child when I had to use it. I'll be honest with you.
So
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 it's that
would
environment for children.
what would you say to those that say, well, how can you know what it's like to be in those people's shoes if you're not dependent on public transportation?
Because I'm here. I live in the inner city. I have a bus stop that sits there empty. And the fact that sometimes I see my neighbors sitting at the bus stop and I say, hey, where are you going? I'll give them a ride because it's a lot easier for me to just pick them up and I say, hey, where are you going? I'll give them a ride over to the grocery store, to the pharmacy. I'll do that for them because I know I don't want to see one of my elderly neighbors sitting there for half an hour waiting to get to that bus that he needs to take to go over to his doctor.
Gotcha. Having crept in the I don't know how many people they put in those vans, Valerie, as far as revealing. Um,
No, with COVID
I
19, there are restrictions. They
there.
really are very careful how many people they can put in.
Okay. Um, so one of the questions, what would be your first item of business? And obviously, there's probably a few, but what would be your number one priority if you were to win the election?
Well, unfortunately, right now, my list has changed.
Okay. Okay.
I, I need to see what happened with our. It's hard for me to describe this because right now there's so much going through my mind, and it's in English and in Spanish because there's some words that are perfect in Spanish to describe what we went through.
Well, say it.
But
Say
the
it.
fact is that right now we know we had a failure in our evacuation plan. Think about all the times we got a notice from Ron Nuremberg during COVID 19 that came on your phone to scare the bejeebies out of you about COVID 19. Every one of you listening to me right now that gets a CPS and SAWS bill, they know your phone number, they know your account, they know where you live, they have your zip code, and sure as heck, if you are late on your bill, they send you a little notice on your phone and they remind you payment due. Why didn't our city use that capability with CPS or SAWS to tell us that we were going to have brownouts, that our electricity was going to go completely out, or your SAWS, that your water was going to be turned off? I started receiving notices from neighbors telling me they found out from a police officer that they were told that the water was going to be shut off. Why are we having to hear from our friends and family, hey, go get water, put it in your tub,
Mhm.
go get some buckets, get some water, get it ready, they're going to turn off the water? Think about that. When you're having to rely on your family and your friends to hear the achievement or the warning that they're going to turn off your water because the city failed to communicate.
Yeah.
I didn't hear it, Linda. Maybe you heard it
I
from, I don't know who
I
Eric
I
is, but
I was posting a lot, and actually people were saying that they only got their news from me,
for you,
and I'm like, and I'm not anybody, and so yeah, I do agree. There should have been definitely a lot of communication
I mean, they
more.
can scare you with a post about COVID, stay home. Well, they should have told us, go get some water, save it, and make sure you drip your faucets because you're going to end up with busted pipes.
Yeah.
Those
Well,
are all I grew up with. I mean, I grew up with that on the coast. When we knew the plan when there was a hurricane, we knew the evacuation plan to make sure we had water in our tubs, make sure we had backup. Why didn't we have a backup?
definitely, and especially with Saha, I mean, I know you probably saw it, is all the shortcomings of the Saha complex, senior complexes that had no water, nothing, no help. Luckily, a lot of people from the community went to go help and
Get
provide
that was
water.
amazing. Yeah, get
You
that
know,
was amazing.
yeah,
That one facility on Fair Avenue is literally, we can see it from our office. We had no water until yesterday. We couldn't help our patients. We couldn't help our clients. And that's actually, for me, it's more criminal. When you know you need water to serve the hospitals and clinics, that's criminal. There's no excuse. I'm sorry. SALS has no excuse for turning off those pumps at all. They should have had generators. They should have had backup. That water needs to be going on for everybody who needs it. And if we knew we were going to have busted pipes, they should have had a notice, drip your water. Drip your water. Forget about the water bill. It's going to be more expensive fixing your pipes and having the city fix your pipes than just dripping your water. We'll deal with the bill later.
Mhm.
And the security of knowing that your oxygen tank or your dialysis machine that you have at home or at your office isn't working because you don't have water. That's what I want to find out. I want to hear the reports coming in from doctors in the medical facilities, how many people were injured because of this.
Yeah. Valerie says the alerts are not okay when they're about COVID and masking, but the alerts are okay for weather outages. And is COVID not serious to you?
Have you heard about COVID right now, Valerie? Think about it. Nobody's thinking about COVID right now. I'm not saying it's not serious. I have friends who've suffered, friends who have died. But COVID alerts versus electricity and water going out,
Mhm.
think about that. There should be no difference. It's an emergency, it's a health issue, and nobody should be put in that type of a situation where their families are at risk.
Um, Fernando says high likelihood that the system servers from those texting apps were down as well. I mean that's definitely because I didn't get any service when all that was stuff was going on. So I mean, that very could well have. I mean, would have. I mean, maybe could have done it beforehand, before the storm hit. But Valerie said it's on CNN all the time. They keep a tally. Where is your news coming from?
What news, Valerie? About COVID or what?
And again, if anybody wants to come in and jump in, just to ask the question directly, just that way we can have a dialogue, you're more than welcome to come in as well. And I'll go ahead and post the link down in the comments again. um,
Well, with Valerie, I don't read CNN. I don't listen to CNN. I don't. I follow some of the national news reports regarding the CDC.
um, so I guess. Oh, okay. So you get your information from the CDC itself. Is I
Yes.
guess what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I get it because my husband's a doctor. So I get
Oh,
the direct information.
gotcha. Um, oh, I guess you're saying, yeah. Where do you get your news from? It's not discussing COVID. I guess that's what.
We're talking about the local issues, Valerie, right now regarding the fact that we're getting numbers and alerts from the mayor about COVID versus the alerts coming to us to tell us about our electricity and our cells being turned off. That's what we're talking about. And that's what the issue should be because we had a safety factor that broke down.
Hmm.
We broke down because right now we're dealing with the police that did a lot of work, a lot of extra work to get help to a lot of people that needed their medications, needed to have shelter. They actually took people from their home to warming stations. So when we have to rely on our police to do some extra work because our system failed, we have to know why they're so important to us when it comes to our police too, because we were very dependent on our police.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Now, on that topic, on the police issue, and obviously this is still a big topic. Where do you stand on the police issue with? And I know the word defunding has gone a long way, and I think from from the advocates of defunding, they were not saying to completely get rid of the police, but actually reallocate some of the money that has been incorporated to police to the police department. Um, where do you stand on the police department issue, and do you think there should be some accountability, or do you think everything's, you know, okay the way it is?
There is accountability. The fact that we have to go through a chain of command is something that we have to understand, that sometimes we're dealing with the politics again. Um, you have the DA that's involved with making sure there's a prosecution of somebody that we're dealing with that might be in the media right now because of an incident. And everybody understand that nobody likes to work with somebody that does not respect their community. And in this respect, if there's an issue with an officer, definitely the chain of command needs to deal with that. But when it comes to the word defunding, like you mentioned, Eric, is the fact that right now it's not defunding the police. It's the fact that we need to have more police in San Antonio for 1.7 million people, because we're getting there. We don't even know our actual our numbers, because we kind of failed in that with our census report. We don't really know what our numbers are, but we're edging up in that direction. Um, but the fact is that we need to understand that we need police to have an economically strong city, community, and families. Anybody that moves to any city, the first thing they do is look up the city, where they want to live, which community, and they look up crime. Think about that. Do you move to an area that has a high crime statistic? No, you don't. So when you think about police, having a strong police force, a respected police force, means that you bring a strong economy to San Antonio. People who want to bring their business, their families, their employers, and new opportunities, because people are going to find out, hey, I want to move to San Antonio. But the fact that we're thinking about defunding the police or reduce the police and put money aside for other agencies, like I said before at the beginning of our broadcast, our county is responsible for mental health. We pay for mental health to the county. So why are we going to put city funding into mental health when we already pay for it in Bexar County? We have other agencies that we pay for with the county. So why are we going to try and put all of these social outreaches groups into another program when we already fund it? Let's ask the county, where is our money? We know we pay for it, but why do we have to have a separate or a duplicating agency to do the same job? And that's the problem that we're having in San Antonio. When I look at the budget, we have a lot of duplication. A
So you're
lot of
saying, our money isn't being well allocated
managed.
for managed, yeah, for the specific um, groups that need help for mental health and things like that. So you think that maybe we need to look at where that money is going instead, rather than looking at the police department?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Actually, we need more police right now because of our growth. We need more equipment for our police. We are looking at technology now that can help us with more cameras. The collective bargaining brought those cameras to those officers to protect them and protect you as a citizen. If you have any issues, they look at those cameras. So the fact is that equipment we fund through the program that we're funding the police department. So let's make sure we don't take something away that we're going to want to know what was on that camera. I'm going to my shoulder because they have it right here. But they have better radios, they have better technology. And what I want to do too is I have an outreach for the police. And I'll share that again tonight. But the fact is that we have an opportunity to make our police officers more visible in San Antonio in the right way. Because we saw them this past week. They were there for us. They risked their lives. They've been dealing with COVID-19 and they drove those icy streets. Think about that. You're home, I'm home, but they were out there. And they were risking their lives to make sure they provided security to a lot of families by either getting them help, getting their medication, or just even doing a welfare check to see that person wasn't on the floor or frozen or in a dire situation that they needed medical attention. Think about that. And think about the fact that when you're calling 911, there were some calls that weren't taken because we don't have enough people at 911. That's all involved with what we need.
Okay, yeah, definitely. There's a lot of comments coming through. I don't know if you saw them or not. Let's see. I can go back if you want to some of the questions or some of the comments if you want, or they're on the side here. But if there's anything that you want to say, to any of the comments, please do. If there's anybody that's watching that would like to come in and actually ask the candidate a question, please come in. I'll post the link one more
Oh,
time. Yeah.
and I'm going to answer Valerie. So you're asking me why I'm praising the police for doing their job? Well, we have a lot of other people in San Antonio that should have been doing their job. Think about that. We're talking about our city council, our mayor, those that lead CPS and SAWS. Those are the people that we should be looking at how they did their job during this time. But the fact is, yes, it is. I'm going to tell you, yes, it is above and beyond. I'm sorry. It is above and beyond their service. That is not their job. If you can show me where it says that they're supposed to go out on icy conditions and not be patrolling, that's the problem. That's the fact that we're dealing with right now, Valerie. The fact that we're kind of picking and choosing who we want to put blame on. But sometimes that's what we have to look at right now, because I do support the police. I want to be able to call the police if there's an issue in my neighborhood again, because I had a shooting not too long ago in my neighborhood, just down the street. Not once, but twice. One actually resulted in a murder. So crime happens everywhere. Crime is changing in San Antonio. Do you know that crime, Eric, now is actually happening in our Airbnbs?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, because that actually used to be part of the hotel industry. Yeah, I mean,
Okay, so it's happening, but not that many people are aware of it, because now Airbnbs in your communities throughout San Antonio are being used for drug houses.
hmm.
Why have a drug house in your house when you can rent a house on an Airbnb for 1 or 2 days, do your job or do whatever your business is, and leave? They're bringing crime into our environment. So crime is changing, it's evolving. And this is where our police needs to be prepared to deal with these changing crimes, because we have human trafficking, we have sex trafficking coming in from the southern border. And I definitely am very concerned, because we heard something in the news during the freeze about an 18-wheeler. We still don't know all the details about those individuals that we supposedly heard that were seeking help because they were stuck inside of a trailer. So these are things that we have to think about. Our police has to evolve with the crimes that are happening in San Antonio.
Yeah. Let me see here. Where'd it go? Let me let me switch over to a lighter note.
Okay,
We'll just switch up just a little bit.
sorry, Eric. Like I tell
No,
you,
hey, no,
I'm
no,
doing
this,
too much studying, and there's too many important issues right now. Too
no,
many
no,
important.
definitely, and we need to talk. I also like to be able
Yeah,
to you know, take a deep breath and let's,
yeah.
But what are let's say three of your favorite places to eat in San Antonio that are small business that you would like to kind of to give a shout out to?
Well, one of them is Mar Harper's. She is a
Mm,
local legend here on the East Side. She's just down the street from me, and actually, um, one of the first people I actually reached out to right after we were able to get out in the open was Mar Harper. I had to go see how she was doing, see how her business was running, and sure enough, she had some pipes that were broken. And thankfully, last night she called me up that the people that we got to her fixed her pipes, so she's up and running. So
hey.
that's what we're talking about. Small businesses need to be protected and helped and nourished, because they do so much for the community. She actually is an outreach for second chances. So she's important. She's a, I want to call her a legend because she is, but she is a legend. And but she serves the community in so many other ways. So I needed to make sure she was up and running. We have other community areas around our restaurants in the area, but um, I like to find little holes in the wall that don't come up in big little segments of going out and eating. So there's La Puntada on the south side. That's not too far from our office. It's a little Mexican restaurant, family oriented. Um, and then, of course, you have family owned restaurants like the Caparellis. They're
Hmm.
all over town,
Yeah.
but they're all family. And that's the beauty of a lot of our restaurants. They're family oriented. They have the grandkids running one, another cousin running another. So I like that, and they've
Yeah.
got great meatball sandwiches. So, but we really don't go out to eat that often because my husband's always working. But when we do, we really enjoy going to places that are just neighborhood
Mhm.
oriented eateries.
Yeah.
Nothing against the big guys, but sometimes just going down, sitting down, relaxing, and just enjoying good food and having
Right.
a good conversation with somebody in the next table because I am a talker. It's kind of fun. Or they actually tell my husband, "Hey, you're my baby's doctor," and yeah, sure enough. But the dogs are cat.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely something that especially right now, we need to try to help our small businesses out because with COVID and then with all this that happened last week, I mean, they're definitely hurting and I know I saw one on it was live from the south side. They posted an article from a restaurant on the south side that they were like, we're struggling, we need help, and so anything that you guys can do with helping small businesses out, definitely always appreciate because those people live here. Those people are that's their livelihood, and it's always good to give back to the community in that way as well. I mean, and also just like you were saying, just helping them get back on their feet too also helps. I'm sure.
Oh, right now, I definitely would. That would be one of my major concerns is getting them open up again. Um, I know we've been dealing it with COVID-19, but right now with the freezes, a lot of them are closed because they don't have water. And we know through inspections, we need to make sure we have water for cooking and making sure we have the right protocols for our situation with our employees and with our patrons. But the fact is that we need to make sure that the city provides them a way to open up, even if they have to invest in some costly repairs because of the broken pipes. Let's make sure the city doesn't penalize them because they might not be able to pay for it. Not everybody got a PPP loan. Think about that. Not everybody got one. We had over 500 businesses, Eric, that closed during this whole COVID-19 situation. And the fact is, that those are 500 families that were business owned. Then you think about all the employees, all the suppliers, all the patrons, everything that you're talking about. It's just not one place. Think about everything else that is affected by that one business that closed.
Hmm.
That's the economy that we have to think about.
Well, and the biggest problem too, especially on the south and east side, and a little bit on the west side, is there wasn't information given out to those people regarding those SBA loans,
Right.
regarding the PPP loans, and what would you like to what would you have liked to have seen done different? What do you think you could have done different?
Well, as the mayor, you're the captain of your team. And your team is every school district, I'm sorry, every city council district, okay? Think about the fact that every council district should have had somebody in charge to go and deal with making sure the PPP loans and grants were applied for. Don't go to all these different groups that are supposed to be in charge. Deal directly with your districts. Let's make sure your economy in your district is surviving. Because when you put them all in one department to facilitate all of these funds and grants, they get lost in the shuffle, and then the big guys go to the top. The little ones go on the bottom, and they never get anything.
Hmm.
So when you look at the PPP loans, and I think you can see them on KSAT and some of the other major news links that actually have all the names of the people or companies that received the PPP loans, there are big names out there, big
Yeah.
companies. We're the little ones. We got lost. I'm included because we didn't even bother. We weren't going to even get it. But the fact is, the fact that we have smaller businesses that could have had a little bit of a safety net to get them through, make them make some adjustments, make them have some adjustments with their dining areas, because they're going to reduce them down to 50%, and they even went down to 25% at certain times during the high numbers of COVID. So when you're thinking about having to reduce, and some even dining areas didn't even open up. I mean, Bill Miller's hasn't opened up. I can just think of that one because right now it's down the street. They only have curbside service. How can you survive if you're a smaller business on curbside service?
Yeah,
And who are you employing?
definitely.
And those are the numbers that we have to look at. People need a job. They need a paycheck right now.
Definitely.
Especially now.
Now segue into that. Um, what would you like to see done differently with the homeless situation?
Again, um, we have city ordinances. We are failing to enforce them. Valerie says that's their job to do that. Well, yeah, it's their job to enforce the ordinances, but the first person that's supposed to do that is code compliance, not our police officers, unless they're committing an actual crime, theft, robbery, attacks, or something like that, a physical situation when you have a police officer called to the scene. But having them in camp, set up tents in your neighborhood, panhandle, those are all ordinances that we have on our city books. Code compliance is supposed to deal with that. One of the persons that we're dealing with regarding not facing the reality that they are permitting this type of behavior in their district is Trevino. And I'm hearing from that community that they're tired of having that office become an encampment. The businesses are affected. The gas station, the Walmart, we had a killing at the Walmart not too long ago, about a year ago, in the parking lot. The fact that we have people that can't even go out of their home to go down the street to the store or to the bus stop because you have a homeless person camped out on the bus bench. Think about that. Why are you putting so much stress on your neighborhood or your families when you're dealing with the homeless issue? We have Haven for Hope, but that was only supposed to last for 10 years. Now
So
we're headed to
how
20.
do we fix that? Because it's not getting fixed. It's not.
It's,
You can't move them out of there because then they're just going to go to neighboring districts. So I mean, what do you do?
we have to look at Haven for Hope. If it's not doing its job, then we need to stop funding it and figure out what we need to do. But paying somebody from San Francisco to tell us how to deal with homeless, that was ridiculous. San Francisco to tell us how to deal with homeless? That's where it all
Well,
started.
and
And they can fix it.
supposedly, and this is some information that I heard as well, but um, San Francisco didn't want to use that company, but it was already too late for San Francisco to begin with. So, and the thing that I know is that okay, well, people are saying, well, why don't you just ask the people that are already here to begin with? Um, so I mean, there's those sides, but I think what happened with San Francisco is they didn't want to employ that company or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, some people are like, well, this 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 company only told us what we already know, in a sense. But so how do we fix that though? Besides all that, how do we fix this issue? Because
We
it
have
needs.
to identify the people. Okay. They were supposed to tell us who these people are, and they missed out on a lot of different demographics or individuals that we're dealing with in the homeless community. The fact that we're dealing with veterans has always been an issue. And being a military city, that is just unbelievable that we have veterans that are out under a bench, camping out in a ditch, under a bridge, anywhere that you think about, they're there. Why are we using just our funds in our department to deal with veterans? We need to have outreach with our veterans department here in San Antonio. We have them at Fort Sam. Why aren't we working with them? Get that person or that department off the base, give them a space at one of our city facilities, and have outreach right then and there. Have them ride along with our people. Our taxpayers shouldn't be protecting or funding a federally funded program. The VA is here in San Antonio. Housing is available for our veterans if they want it, because not everybody wants it. So we have to identify what are the problems. Why are our veterans on the streets? Then we have another situation, mental health. Again, I go back to what I said about the county. We have a mental health hospital in San Antonio and in Bexar County. Why isn't it open? Why isn't it working? What happened to it? We're funding it.
That is a good point as far as we need to find out where we're spending our money to begin with.
Exactly. So
And if it's not working, then we need to reallocate funds from those. But I think the problem that people had with the SAPD is that they were reallocating funds from community groups and moving them over to SAPD, and SAPD got a big gain in funds. But you know, I don't know if those programs are working right. I don't know. Nobody said anything about those programs. So I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I think the lack of transparency is why are we removing this funding from these community groups that could help with bringing down crime being moved?
we actually added more funding. When you look at the budget, we added more funding to domestic violence.
Hmm.
We added more funding for children abuse, for child abuse. We added more funding for safe officers with our police departments. We see it. We added more.
Right, right. But I'm saying we removed community programs like I forget which ones they were specifically, but programs that help the community, and so that's where there was that's why people were upset that you're removing community groups and moving them over to SAPD, where you can try to prevent crime if you have community organizations or community groups programs that are helping the community. You know what I mean? I think that's where the whole argument was coming from.
But there needs to be oversight. When you
Yeah,
have so many organizations doing the same thing, we need to have oversight because it's all like anything else. It's administration cost.
yeah.
Think about that. When you have so many different companies doing the same thing, and there's so much people involved in the department or in the organization that's getting the upper management fees or salaries, how much is it actually going to getting the issues resolved?
Hmm. And with that, do you think that we need to look into where all the money is going to for SAPD? Because a lot of our funding for our general funds is going to public, what was it, public safety.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, do you think that we should also still look at SAPD and everything in public safety to make sure all the funds are being allocated correctly or and they're being put to good use?
Yes, it is. But when you look at the funding for San Antonio Police, is actually the benefits. Think about that. When you go to any job, you look at your benefits. If you want to be an employee at a department or a company, you look at your benefits. Are you going to get insurance? Is your family going to get insurance? As a teacher, I needed to make sure I have my benefits for my family, my health insurance. Those are all things, and they increase. Every year they increase. So a lot of that happens because the money is going to pay for their retirement and the health of their family when it comes to their health insurance. So are we not supposed to go ahead and provide them health insurance? Think about that. So
Gotcha.
those are the issues that we're talking about. Our city government has city employees. They get benefits. What makes them any different?
Hmm.
Hospitals get benefits. Doctors, nurses, staff. It's all the same when it comes to what we expect to get with our employees. If we want top-notch police officers, we need to have a good outcome when it comes to our employment, because that's what brings A+ officers to our department. And most people don't understand that we actually have officers not just with a high school degree, not because they went through training, but some of them go back to school and get degrees in specialties. They actually get degrees and have masters, PhDs, and people don't know that. because you actually can get better benefits if you have better education, just like any other job. You get a better education, your scale of pay goes up, just like teachers. So we have to be realistic. You need top qualified people in every department, from our police to our firefighters, and even running saws and electric. Because I know that we have problems in our city government when it comes to development services. We have engineers, and then we have people who don't even know how to read a plan.
Mm.
So we need to make sure that anybody, when we're talking about our city government, is qualified to do the job. And that's how I see it. We need to have quality people doing the job because that's our investment in those departments, in our city government,
Mm.
because we are the bosses. We pay them to serve us and be there for us.
Yeah. Jolie said, "We are looking to rewrite laws from the 1960s. Our police deserve to have new modern protections." Vote yes to repeal 174. Do you have anything to say to that?
Well, I'm afraid that we're going to end up having a problem because quite a few of our officers can literally walk off the job because they can take retirement.
And again, if anybody wants to come in and ask the question or have a dialogue as well, please do so.
Please do
Um,
so.
yeah, definitely. We always encourage because this is really like a public forum, even though we're doing it virtual. That was the whole point of this is just to have that engagement with people, with the candidates as well. Um, and I think the last one we had people ask some questions, which is really cool. We just really want to make sure we have some more engagements. That way we can get to know more about the candidates and things like that. Um,
And Eric, can I actually
yes,
answer this?
yes, yes.
When we're talking about repealing or actually defunding the police, I think people have to understand the nuances regarding insurance. I'm talking about your insurance, my insurance. Businesses and property owners, and I'm talking home or even your car. Depending on where you're located, your insurance is based on your zip code. If you're in a high crime area, your insurance rates go up. Growing up, I lived on the border. Car insurance was really expensive because we were in an area that most cars were stolen and taken across to Mexico. So our insurance rates were quite high. Same thing with certain insurance because we were on the coast for our home. If you look at your history, there's something about redlining. When we built our practice on the south side of San Antonio 30 years ago, there was still redlining. And banks would look at your investment where you wanted to build your business or your home, and it would consider if it was a risk to build.
Mhm.
Is it a risk to invest in a certain area of town? That is redlining. Think about redlining the entire city of San Antonio because now you have defunded your police, or if you reduced your police, crime stats can go up, your insurance rate for your own car can go up, your home can go up, but even your health insurance, because now you live in an environment that you might end up getting hurt because of crime. So those are all factors that a lot of uninformed viewers or voters don't understand when you look at the policies when you're looking at insurance.
Right. But here's the problem that with those chapters, there's so many items in those chapters, and yes, some of it does include, benefits and things like that, but some of the things for accountability are yes, they are outdated, but there needs to be a change on there, but nobody seems to be hitting the root cause of the issue for that. You know what I mean? And so I think we're not doing something right, especially from the legislature part. But anyway, before I go into that, there's a few comments here. Again, if anybody wants to come in, There's the link right in the comments. You'll see my link, my post on there. You can click in there. You can come in and ask the questions. Have a dialogue in here. We can have up to 10 people in here. So please come on in.
They're out
Um,
to get their food and their milk and their eggs.
right. Um, okay. Josie said most of our police force wasn't even born when these laws were created. That's just That's not just for them. Rewriting laws will ensure more protections, ensure they can continue doing their jobs as good cops by being able to eliminate the criminal cops. And she also said, I'm sorry, we do not support defunding the police.
Okay.
So,
I'm glad she doesn't support defunding the police. I never said that we shouldn't look at the issues regarding certain officers and issues that arise through some event or some incident that happened. There needs to be review, definitely, but we also need to make sure that we actually have the processes done correctly, because
right,
sometimes we can assume things before we get all the evidence, and that's what I'm talking about, the cameras. We need to have those cameras available to have people on both sides of the incident have the evidence that they need to make sure that the incident is going to be reviewed properly. And if there is going to be a firing or there's going to be an issue regarding a lawsuit, everybody is covered. Cameras help a lot when it comes to certain situations. So that is something definitely that I need to make sure as a mayor that we keep that available for everybody and not waiting a month to see the evidence or seeing the tape. We need to have that information. So that's definitely
right,
something I want to keep, because we actually need to have more cameras. I mean, think about it. We have cameras on the highways. We have we have these cameras that are watching us north, south, east, and west of San Antonio. But when we have an accident, why don't we have access to those cameras? Why don't we have access when we're having those pocket rockets speeding down the highways that we've had recently? Why aren't we dealing with those type of issues? Because that's a safety issue that they're putting you and your families in danger when they're riding and speeding along the highways. Cameras help police us, but also police the police, because we need to make sure that everybody has information that we can use to make sure that we can address the issues that we're facing,
mm,
good or bad.
right. Um, and then she also said, we support proper equipment for the job that our police officers do, but we also support the police chief being able to fire officers that break their oath, protect the officers that take pride in their oath by protecting their communities by voting yes or 174. So, do you have anything to say regarding that? I mean, I'm assuming you're saying that you are for making sure that these police officers are accountable as well,
Chain of
right?
command. Yes,
Okay, okay.
it's a chain
But
of command.
okay.
Yeah, like I
Um,
said, I mean, I used to be a teacher. If there was a problem, that principal was in charge first, and they went to the superintendent, and they went to the superintendent. So, we have a chain of command for a reason. And we have to make sure that we understand that we don't know all the issues right now when it comes to certain incidents, but we're learning. We're finding where there was a break, there was an issue, and we need to protect everybody, because it's just not one incident that we're hearing about a police officer, one or two police officers. We actually have incidents where officers were killed. We had an officer that was sitting outside the fire, I mean the police station, and he was shot point blank, came up and shot him. Was there any outrage with that? So we have to understand that we have men and women out there that have a target on their back.
right. Um, and if anybody is watching from Sapoa, please reach out, because I did reach out to them and they said they were going to get a representative to contact me, because we want to be able to have an open conversation with Fix SAPD, which I believe Josie is part of at Fix SAPD, and Sapoa together, so we can kind of, as voters, figure out what this whole thing is that's going to be on the ballot, right? Just to make sure, because there's a lot of finger pointing and we're not getting like real clear answers. And I think it's important for the people to really understand what they're voting for, and for each side to have their case like made. Um, and I think we really need to have that conversation. So if you, Denise, have any, I'm going to ask tonight when we go to that debate, and see if there's
Please.
anybody that has a contact, because we need to have that conversation, um, and have both representatives there to say, look, this is what we're trying to get for. This is what this actual vote would cause, and figure it out that way, because we're not. I don't feel like people are really getting a grasp of what's actually happening between these both sides. You know what I mean?
And I think I want to share something about what we're talking about with the police as a woman. Um, One of the reasons why I'm actually running for this position is the fact that I need to be a voice for a lot of women out there that are suffering or dealing with the ramifications of the economy and lost jobs. But you also have to understand that women, especially single women, and women of color, because soy mexicana. I mean, I might be fair. We all come in different shades, pero soy mexicana. Here I go with the este. The fact is that we end up having to call the police for help. We have a lot of domestic violence in San Antonio. We have a lot of issues that we have to call the police for help. If we can't call as a woman to protect our family, who are we supposed to reach out to? Think about that. A lot of women are out there on their own. How many times have you watched on Nextdoor apps or on Facebook a post of a family reaching and asking for help from the community because one of their children decided to run away or was missing? We reach the community out there, but the police is also out there watching and looking for that child. They're an arm of our community. They're an arm of our family, because if we need help, we call them. And that's our concern right now. What are we going to do to ourselves if we end up reducing our police, changing the quality of our police, because they're very highly trained? There's more training in our police force than other police forces in Texas. And people don't understand that. Our officers don't come out as officers. They're still in training, even when they're in uniform. So the fact that we need to protect them, I will do that as a woman, because I need to know that my other female friends or neighbors have that security that they can call 911 if they need help.
Okay. Matt Pena says defund the police means taking away training on dealing with at-risk individuals like the mentally and physically impaired. Um, and then thing also said, what would you do to increase police recruitment? Right now, it's not socially acceptable to be a police officer.
Well, one thing for sure is not defunding the police. We need to show that we are protecting our police department in the respect of respecting their position. I mean, how amazing is it that in just a decade or so, we've gone from idolizing our police department and our fire department after 9/11 to now. I mean, everybody was proud to wear an NYPD hat, or we would honor our officers in the city and thank them and say hello. Now we've had this wall against us, and that's not right. That's not right. I see you have a child behind you,
Yes,
and the
sorry.
fact is, the children need to know they're not the boogie person. They're not the boogie man. They're not the boogie woman. You know, they're there to serve us, and the respect needs to be mutual. The respect needs to be mutual. And I think what we're dealing with right now is marketing. People love to market words. I see Chris saying defund, and I see reimagine. I mean, we have reimagine the Alamo, defund the police. All these words are negative words. they're not words that are going to fix anything, because it's not going to fix the police. Because it's not just fixing the police, it should be fixing the community.
Mhm.
Because we have to live together.
Yeah, and that's the thing too is fixing our community. System is in place and failing our community. Um, so I mean, there's obviously definitely something our community is not being taken care of, right? Our education is not being taken care of. We're spending a lot of money, but a lot of people are opting to go to private schools or to go somewhere else than our public schools. So, you know, we need to see a change in that, right? I mean,
Well, you look at the growth around San Antonio. People are moving out of San Antonio because one, the amenities are better, housing is cheaper, it's affordability. So they're moving to Converse, they're moving to New Braunfels, they're moving to Bernie, they're moving over to the surrounding areas. I mean, even south of San Antonio, because there's growth there. But when we're having to move out of our city and we're talking going back to transportation, you're never going to have via bus go all the way over to New Braunfels and pick up commuters and come to San Antonio to go to work. Think about that. So when we can't keep our own city insulated to the point where we're having to rethink how we're dealing with our communities because we're losing San Antonians to go and live in other areas because it's more affordable or better schools or better amenities, then there's a problem. Because then what are we left behind with in San Antonio? What's the
mhm.
quality of people and employees are we keeping in San Antonio? Because when we're thinking about putting all this money in with the workforce program, we're going to spend almost 4 years per person who can attain this program benefits. But that doesn't mean they're going to stay in San Antonio. There's no assurances they're going to stay and take that training and use it here.
Yeah,
So we
definitely.
need to make it accessible for people to stay in San Antonio because we have better housing, affordable housing, better schools, safety, hospitals. Think
Mhm.
about it. I'll go back to hospitals again. We failed our community in so many ways this past week when our hospitals did not have the capabilities of staying open to
Yeah,
serve those patients.
yeah, that was not cool. Josie said, "Would you be willing to meet to discuss further what we can do to help address houselessness and police accountability?" And she also said she's part of the San Antonio Coalition for Police Accountability. So I'm sorry, that was my fault. I thought you were the
Not a
first
problem.
one.
I'm reading it. Josie can just reach out to me, and we'll be happy to set up some time so I can actually have enough time to sit at an appointment because I don't like to just make a little 30-minute little
Mhm.
appointment on my schedule. I like to have time to discuss it, and I have my information I'll share with you, and I guess Eric has it as well. But
Mhm.
I'm always willing to listen and learn from a lot of people, and that's why I say I've had so much I've learned from people since my last run 2 years ago for city council. I've never stopped advocating for my community of the East Side. East Side is my home. I'm not going anywhere. And I only want to see it get better and stronger because it's a beautiful community and it's a reflection of all of San Antonio. Because whatever happens here will happen everywhere else. And that's what I shared with people 2 years ago. If we're having problems with affordability in San Antonio and gentrification in the east side, it's going to happen to the west side. And we just saw that with the Alazan courts. And I was
Yeah,
there with the Alazan courts when we were arguing the fact that we couldn't displace people. We have a problem with Saha. We don't have enough Saha housing. Think about that, Eric. We've had two HUD secretaries come from San Antonio, Cisneros and Castro, and we still haven't fixed our housing inequality and the needs for families to have housing available to them right now. Two HUD secretaries. You're talking about we want to
yeah.
fix San Antonio? We had two federally important departments come from San Antonio and we didn't get it fixed.
I mean, that could kind of be like if you were looking at it from the other end is getting somebody from San Francisco, like you were saying, and bringing them over here. It's kind of in a sense, like, nothing's being done about it. But
No,
who is not making those? That could be the problem. Who is not making those decisions? Why are these people not getting the help where they should be getting help with? Um, that's definitely there's a lot.
I know, Eric, it's so
it
frustrating.
it is
That's
it
why I
is.
read everything. I've been reading the budget for several years now, going back, and it's page after page after page. And then I look at the names, and it's the same thing, but it's a different department with different new people. I'm thinking it's the same department. It's a duplication of funds. We don't have any results. There's no results.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's definitely something's not clicking. And I don't care who it is. We need to have that accountability with politicians, with and yeah, some police, and with any organizations that we need accountability for where this money is going, where our taxpayer money is going. Because if we're just throwing money at a situation, throwing money at a houseless situation, it's not working. What are we doing? But there's some more comments on here. For your law enforcement agencies, San Antonio overlapping jurisdiction, even SAISD police arrest folks and process administrate incidents. So again, this idea that ESA is under police is nonsense. Since the point every point made because it's my perspective argues everyone else's. Do you have anything to say about that?
No, I think that we have to look at the fact that you're talking about SAISD. Yes, they do have police. And I was on the call on a Zoom meeting with SAISD that wanted to have their police removed from their district, and they voted against it. Think about this. Why do you have police at a school district? Is it to protect the students, the teachers, the campus in general? If you don't have a safe environment for children to be educated or teachers to teach, you have a failure. You're not going to open up your doors.
Mhm.
And you have police at sporting events. Think about that. Why are they there? Just to watch the game or to keep the peace? Because sometimes it can get out of hand. Think about it. Sometimes you have parents get really hot under the collar, or you got
Right.
kids that get real excited, and you have to have police. And you're not going to have teachers coming onto a campus that they don't feel safe. We've seen that all over the nation. Teachers walk away from their jobs because they don't feel safe.
No.
But yeah, I mean, when I have my father, he was a school administrator. When he had to have to take a gun away from a female student, that's when he knew that was the year he was going to retire. Think about that. 30 some odd years teaching and then becoming an administrator. And then you're having to deal with children, students, bringing weapons to school. So, should that be his job? Or that should
Yeah.
be somebody like a police officer coming in and taking that gun away?
Yeah, I don't know. That's yeah, that's yeah. I mean, and I think for the most part, a lot of these accountability groups, they're not talking about defunding, right? They're just talking about
Mhm.
accountability and looking at those chapters. Yeah, there's definitely some things that need to be fixed, and obviously this is outside of your scope because this would be Texas legislature, but you know,
Yeah,
but I think we're going to kind of move on from that just because we definitely hit that. But I know it's a really big topic, so I'm
it's a
glad
big
for
topic.
every. It is.
And I appreciate the questions. And I just want people to realize, look around you. Look around you and see it's just not the police department. Think about growing up, or even when I moved to San Antonio, I never saw a security officer or a police officer working HEB at the front door. Things change. You have security now at your grocery store, at a Walmart. We just had an incident at Walmart this past week. So when our environment changes, our community changes. So you have to think about that. It's no longer, uh, Mayberry Street with Opie. I mean, it's not.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, we definitely need to figure out how to mutually make these beneficial for both. I mean, yes, the police
I
need to be these. They need to be safe. They have to go home too. They have families, and also we need to make sure people are safe too. And with that, what's your stance on legalization of marijuana? Are you pro, against it?
Well, I know a lot of people would be very happy. uh, I think it needs to be medicinal for a lot of people dealing with medical issues. It's very beneficial for a lot of people going through some treatments, but it does need to be regulated. I know we have a lot of, what is it, CBD oil and all these little pop-ups that we have around here. And as a business, it's bringing in money, it's bringing in sales tax. So when it comes to the economy, it's a business. I understand that. But it has to be regulated because we still have people that are working in an environment. Again, I'm telling you, like I said before, teachers. You can't have a teacher sitting there and not be there because they just had a whatever they wanted to deal with.
Right.
I
Well,
don't
I mean
care what
that's
that was.
yeah, and that's
Yeah,
obviously part of that corporation or part of that school. I mean, yeah, it's like I can't drink while I'm, whatever. Like, yeah, I mean, there's things like that. But as far as as a state or city level, I mean, you know,
it, it definitely
there's
would.
a lot of things that would benefit. Yes,
Yeah.
the cost wise and taxing and everything like that, which I am against taxes, but
Gotta
I
pay for something.
well, but I mean, but there's also the fact that that would put a lot of people that would normally get put in jail and be incarcerated and get put have a record, and then everything go wrong from there.
There is
On
a limit.
top of
There
that,
is a number. There is a number, exactly, and that's where we have to work with the DA, because that will come in front of their jurisdiction for some sort of adjudication. So we need to have legislation on how we're going to regulate that. But we can't overextend it to have kids try and get it under 18. I mean, we can't go to that extreme. So we have to make
but
sure there's some,
but
yeah,
you're people could get beer. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, so there's that argument of,
yeah,
well, I mean, it's no different. You know what I mean? So if the you're going to a shop, then they need to card you. Then okay, they need to card you.
yeah.
But it's no different than now. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, kids can still get off the street if they want to, but they get put in a more dangerous situation because now there's drug dealing, and then they're getting put in jail. So I mean, if you were to legalize it, that would change a lot of things and put people not in jail that they don't need to be in there. You know what I mean? So there's that aspect because if you want to say, well, you don't want to put it in the hands of kids, but they're gonna get it anyway if they're gonna do it from drug deals. You know what I mean? If you have it to where it's legal and you're having it in streets, like in stores, then they have to card you just like alcohol.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. We have to have rules and regulations because
Right.
unfortunately, we have some really great opportunities to be a race car driver on a highway because we can go 120 miles an hour, but we still have a speed limit. Just because you can
140,
go
140. I did
140.
140 once.
Oh, you drove it. All right, you're moving it up. But think about it. You can
Right.
go,
Yeah.
I mean, crazy on the highway. If you've got
Yeah.
a free and clear opportunity, everybody wants to try and be a race car driver if it's safe, but that doesn't mean you should be doing it all the time.
Yeah.
So, that's the problem that we have right now. We have to make sure that we can think about the possibilities of bringing some income to the state, make sure it's regulated, make sure it's a safe situation for families and parents and teachers, because you will have children, you just said it, that might come into the campus and bring that onto campus. We had drug problems on campus and they still do. But now because it's legal, we still need to have some restrictions so we know exactly how to deal with it when we do face it on a school campus. Because we don't want to always be calling the cops saying, oh, he's got a big bag of, weed, or she has a big bag carrying all this stuff
But
already.
aren't those already implemented, right? I mean, aren't those already there? Those systems are already in place to the regulations of you can't bring drugs to school. You know what I mean? So what's different?
Well, the problem is it's not going to be openly available because it's going to be able to be purchased outright in the open
Or it's safer?
where it's safer. Exactly. That's why we have a regulation.
Right,
Yeah.
but that's what I'm saying is if you were to make it legal, it's safer to
Yeah.
purchase rather than putting yourself in a bad situation and
Yeah,
possibly
I never said I wasn't against
yeah,
it. I just said we just have to have regulations to make sure everybody is safe.
right, right.
Yeah.
And okay.
Yeah.
Um
But again, I'm thinking about the money. I'm sorry. I always think about the money because if it doesn't have to come through you through personal taxes, if they want to buy their weed, make sure it's taxed. I don't buy beer. I don't drink. So I don't pay any of the alcohol tax.
yeah.
So, it's your choice, but make sure
You're
it's
right.
taxed.
Um and Chris said, opportunities by proximity. My belief is that San Antonio can be the same as Fort Worth is to Dallas. We can be the same to Austin. Um, cannot put a toothpick in Austin and San Antonio should take advantage of our close proximity. Not quite understand what you mean specifically. Like I mean maybe kind of bridging communities together. I don't know.
Well, there's a lot in between. I think I know where Chris is going with this. It's like Fort Worth slash Dallas.
A
Um,
metroplex.
yeah, the Metroplex. But there's a lot of little towns in between here and Austin. So I think it's going to be a little more difficult to do that. I mean, we tried to do that with the outer loop, the tollway from San Antonio to Georgetown, and few people use it. They still go up 35. So,
Right.
the fact is that we have to figure out how we're going to make it easier for us to commute back and forth if we're going to do that. Um, it'd be great, but there's just too many stops in between.
Well, aren't they talking about doing a train from to and from, or was it a train, or what was it that they're trying to build on the
Yeah,
I-35 corridor?
they're trying to have some sort of trans or railway between us, and it's a great idea, but to implement it right now, especially now with this economy, would be impossible.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe re incorporating what we already have with that tollway, maybe have it going the other way. Um,
How
but
about we
still,
fix 35 first?
well, fix
let's
35.
finish let's finish 35 first before we start. And that's the problem that we're having with our infrastructure is we're not fixing our infrastructure that's currently here. We're too busy building out and building more things in the city to accommodate more people, but we're neglecting our infrastructure. The people
Well,
on the
I'll tell
west
you,
side, the people on the south side.
yeah, and it's terrible because we're never going to fix it because we keep, like I mentioned back to Via, we keep using our funds to fix the streets that somebody else is using. But what we're dealing with right now is that we're going to have to think about the future, and it's right now. It's not even in the future, it's now. You and I, before we even got on here, we had a hard problem getting me on because of the internet.
Mhm.
We have terrible internet in San Antonio, and it fails us all the time. I live in the inner city, I live downtown. You would think with all of this development happening off of Broadway, downtown, with all of these huge buildings and skyscrapers, the Pearl, all of this, you'd have A plus internet service. Broadband connectivity would be just a highlight of this area. We don't have it. And we've seen the failures right now because we actually have an opportunity to rethink this because you have students going to school from home, you have doctors doing telemed, you have businesses trying to have their employees working from home, and they can't do it. They can't. So if we do not have reliable internet service in San Antonio, How do we expect to get to that next level? How are we going to be attractive? How are we going to say, you know what, people, don't worry about commuting, stay home. You can do your job from home. We know that's happening right now with our city government. A lot of them don't even go to our departments downtown. They've been working from home. My neighbor works across the street, works at home for the city.
Right.
So if we're investing so much money on a brand new city building, which is the Frost building downtown, which ended up being this money pit, why didn't we use that money for internet? There are other ways we can be doing this right now, because any new projects coming into San Antonio should have that as part of their development and ordinances. And we can help facilitate that by making sure that we become partners with those developments, by making sure they're connected to the internet. Because you're going to have new families coming into these apartment complexes, these condos, these new developments. They need internet. Our hospitals, our doctors, even our military needs internet. So I'm sorry, I just go from all other places, but that's where I see the infrastructure being. That should be part of our infrastructure right now.
Well, and a lot of people on the west side, south side, east side, they just want lights. They just want lights, and that's not being done. So I mean, you know, it we take lighting for granted, and a big problem in some of these communities are they just want lighting, and it's not being done. And that's the infrastructure that, aside from the internet, right? The internet disparity, there's also the lighting, the roads, and everything that we're not getting done because we're too busy getting big, and we're too busy trying to lure big companies in, and all this stuff. But I mean, we're not fixing our infrastructure. So I mean, do you think that you would want to see more businesses come in, or do you think that we're trying to attract too many businesses and this is causing a negative effect on us?
Well, if you know the South Side, you've seen the rapid growth along Military around Brooks City Base.
Mhm.
And if you're familiar with Brooks City Base, you see all of the new development, specifically along the main street, with new restaurants, new businesses that are built around shopping centers. Shopping centers also are essential for neighborhoods because they need to be able to shop in their communities. Um, that area blossomed because we have opportunity zones. Just the way we have Sage on the east side, we have the opportunity zone that City of San Antonio mapped out from the state, which was actually provided through the previous administration.
Mhm.
And that is still implemented today. We have funding for it. The federal funds came from that administration for the opportunity zone. We still need to take advantage of that. We can't let that bank just fall, break, and lose all the money. It's there. We have to use it wisely. Now,
And you're talking
there's
about
a
the TERS, right? You're talking about the TERS.
no. This is the opportunity zone. Period. There was
Oh,
special
okay.
money
Oh.
coming for part of the Brook City Base area. There's a
Mhm.
part on the north east and north. It's a really interesting map. I've actually shown it before. And
The
those
tax investment, um the you're not talking about the TERS, the tax
no,
increment
no, it's a
reinvestment
separate.
zone.
It was a separate fund
Oh, okay, okay,
from
okay.
from the Trump administration for opportunity zones, specifically areas of color. So Black communities, Hispanic communities actually have a zone over by Culebra, where you see the Alamo Ranch area out there.
Mhm.
You have it over by Brooks, and then you have a section of the east side that was opportunity zone areas. And that's why you see the development happening in the Brooks area on District 3 and 4, that little part right there. So that money should also have been used for what you're talking about, streets and lighting. We have a huge issue down there with streets and lighting. But we also have a huge issue that City of San Antonio likes to annex a lot of places. Let those developers do all the infrastructure, the master planning. Let them put the streets in, let them put the water, let them put the sidewalk, let's put the lights. And then guess what? We're going to annex you. You do all the work, and then we annex you. Well, guess what? We don't have that right now in the inner city because we're established communities.
Mhm.
So if they don't have to put that investment on the north side or the east side or the west side by SeaWorld or over by Shirts because it's growing in that area, um, then take that money and use it on the southeast side of San Antonio. Let's put that money that we didn't invest in lighting and streets, put it there. We didn't spend it. We didn't
Yeah,
invest in it. Put it back where we need it.
definitely. Well, I'm gonna it. Surprisingly,
I'm
we got
sorry.
this
I'm
far.
looking at
No,
everything,
hey, no,
and I
no,
want.
you're good. You're good.
I apologize because I see it like, oh, what did she just get into here? But think
Yeah.
about annexation. Alamo Ranch
Mhm.
doesn't want to be annexed. Why? Because they did it all on their own.
Yeah, yeah,
They did it all on their own. And now, oh, it's a privilege to be a part of San Antonio. Well, what privilege are we going to get? We built our streets, we did our lighting, we built our schools, we did everything. And now we're supposed to be a part of San Antonio? Fix what you have in San Antonio before you keep annexing other communities.
yeah,
Fix what we have.
yeah. That
Because,
is one of the questions that I know somebody had brought up was the annexation, and it's definitely it's a problem.
yeah,
But
we get too
um,
big for britches.
right, yeah, and that's what I think is we're getting too big for our own good, and we're not helping the people that already live here.
No.
We're not fixing the infrastructure. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
Well,
Maybe we
thank
didn't
you. I
cover
wasn't, we almost had what?
2 hours.
2 hours?
2
I had a
hours.
lot of cover. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, no, I really appreciate this, and I really appreciate those individuals who typed in and chatted with us. And yes, I want you to understand. Um, no, Fernando, the benefit developers, they take the financial risk. Fernando, I'm sorry, I keep reading.
No, no, you're good. You're good. That's why they're here.
Yeah, um, if you don't have developers, you're not going to bring in people to your community to live in your community and have better schools and have better businesses. Think about that. I mean, I could be considered a developer because we decided to develop a brand new facility in my community. Does that make me bad? No, I knew I needed to serve our community. I know we needed to serve a medical needs of our community. So that's the problem. We have to look, the developers aren't always the enemy, but we have to work with them to make sure we get something from them that will help our community because they need to be a part of a team. When you go to development services and you go to commissioner's court, when you're talking about somebody coming into your neighborhood because they want to rezone something, a home to a multi-unit zoning plot from a house to maybe four because they're going to put condos, or they want to make it residential to commercial, you have to go in front of a commissioner's court and you have to argue your issues. But you also have to understand that's your opportunity to also work with those developers. Tell them what you need. Tell them that if you're coming into my neighborhood, what are you going to do for us? That's what
Yeah.
happened in my neighborhood. We had a home that was going to be demolished because a developer wanted to move it, demolish it, get rid of it to build an extension to a project that they planned for apartments. That's a historical home. It was flipped, it was remodeled, it was a beautiful home, but it was in the way. But guess what? Pick it up, move it. It's still affordable housing. We preserve the house. They're actually fixing it right now, making sure all the connections are going to go in there. And it's going to be kept in our neighborhood because we as a community worked with the developer to preserve that house. He's still going to work on his project, but we still kept a home in our neighborhood for a family. So we have to work with our developers. And your district representatives, your council people need to work with you to make sure that you have an opportunity to be at that table with those developers. And that's what I'm hoping to do as mayor, because I never had an opportunity with my council person. We had to go out around them to meet with those developers. So I want to make sure that those council people facilitate that for their community and their constituents, because this is a team effort.
Yeah.
It has
And
to.
definitely, and I think that a lot of people need to be really engaged with what's going on in their backyard, and and yeah, fight the things that they see that might be wrong, and start, like you were saying, just kind of challenge that system, challenge to where it's like, well, we want to work with you, but we want to make sure it gets done our way, not your way.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, there's
but
nothing wrong. I mean, you'll find out we probably have the same ideas. We just get there differently
mhm.
to the
or
finish
the
line.
approach, or the
Yeah.
approaches.
Yeah. And we'll do it together. But because you're still going to live in your neighborhood, and people still want to live in my neighborhood. That's generations. And every part of our city has a unique um, feel and taste and just the sense of community, of familia, that we can't ignore that. Just because we want to go ahead and put a new building in, a new skyscraper or a new fancy uh, mural, or whatever we're doing to make it look better, it's still our neighborhood, it's still our families. And they need to know that we welcome them in there, but they need to know they need to be a team player with us, because we're going to watch for them when they close off those lights and go home, because we still live in the neighborhood. We get those calls, hey, like recently, hey, your water pipe broke. We call them up. We kind of scramble
Yeah,
around and make sure everybody's okay, because they become a part of that community. So
yeah,
that's how we have to work with our developers. They need to be a part of the community, not just build, make their money, and leave. They need to be invested in what they're doing in our neighborhoods and in our city.
right. Okay. Well, Denise, I appreciate you coming on and just taking the time to just answer these questions and just kind of get a better glimpse of what. Just one more thing. What uh, what do you think sets you apart from all the other 14 candidates that are on the ballot?
Well, definitely, I have a lot of ideas. um, Being a businesswoman, I know what it takes to run a business. San Antonio is a business. And in my practice, my business is people oriented. I have an advantage that we know our patients, our families, they're families to us. They've been part of our practice for 30 years. So we now have grandkids coming to us. Um, but that's the way we should look at the city. Uh, our city needs to be family oriented when it comes to working for our communities. We live it. I don't have water right now in my home. So I'm like a lot of you out there right now. I still don't have water. I have to go to a neighbor's house to go and shower. But that's a community. We help each other. But the fact that we're dealing with some major issues right now, I want to do this for San Antonio because I have the support of my family to do this. I don't need the job. I'm not looking to go into politics and look to go up the ladder and become a person that's going to look for something better, like a lot of other people tend to do. I'm here to serve. I've been advocating for my neighborhood, I've been advocating for my neighbors, and the community that I want to serve is now just larger. It's just larger, but it's still my home. And if I can get more of those messages to me, because they know I love to talk and I love to hear, I love to listen and learn from people, then we're going to learn more of the failures that we can fix.
Right.
But we have more successes than we have failures. We had a big one right now, but we can fix it. We can fix it if you have the right people elected into office right now to serve you. And there's some amazing people out there right now, a lot of business people that work in their communities and have that same relationship. So I encourage you to take time to listen, learn from these individuals. I thank you for giving us an opportunity to introduce ourselves. Um, I am willing to listen and learn from everybody, because nobody has that one perfect answer, but we can get to those solutions together. And we need to get to those solutions fast.
Right.
because this cannot happen again.
Definitely. Well, thank you, Denise. If you want to hold back after I'm done,
Sure.
thank you for just coming on and just sharing your platform basically, and just taking these questions and um, and just look
We got to
forward
open up.
to
We
yeah,
got to open.
definitely,
We got to open up. We can do it.
yeah.
Protocols. We can do it.
And so definitely make sure that how can people get a hold of you?
Well, I have a couple of different ways, but of course, I have a email address if they want to send me a quick question or two. It's VOTE four. Let me see, four.
The number
uh,
4?
yeah, number four, the
Okay.
number four, like that commercial.
Yeah.
Denise San Antonio at gmail.com. And I do have a website. It's www.denise, four number again, samayor.com. And I do have my Facebook page under Denise Gutierrez-Homer for mayor. And actually, you can read a lot of information on there about other concerns that I've had throughout this process leading up to
Is it,
today. So it's about property taxes. It's about issues with some programs that we need to look at. So there's a lot of information. So if you want to hear and read some of my concerns, you have quite a bit so you can read up on and peruse and kind of see the diagrams and um, formats of programs that we need to look at right now.
okay, awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you again, and just thank you everybody for joining. Um, and then if anybody also wants to sponsor this show, please do so. We're always taking donations because we just want to make sure we can try to get this better and better every time. And if you have any questions, please do so. If you are a candidate that I haven't reached out to yet, um, I will be getting to you. I'm making phone calls and everything. If you want to send me a message, you can as well. I'm going to try to do the school board candidates, depending on if I have enough time to do it, because I didn't realize there was 15 mayoral candidates and then like
I didn't.
12, yeah, and then 12 District 2 candidates. So, I mean, I'm trying to chip the block, but people keep adding their names to it. I'm like, oh, man. But I promise I'm going to try to reach out to everyone, try to get to every single district. I have, I think, Councilwoman Melissa Harda tomorrow, and she's running for reelection. So definitely, we're going to try to keep chipping away at everybody. Because I want to get to know more about the school board and everything, and I think a lot of people would really like to know what the school board does and everything like that. So, but thank you, Denise, and appreciate you, and thank everybody for watching. Have a great day.
Thank you.